I'll explain a little bit about my experience with adoption. So for me, I didn't find out until I was like 16, and my sister was actually the one that told me. And yeah, so when I found out, like before that, I never really had the idea that was adopted. Like honestly, I knew about you and like the other people, but for me, I didn't know that. So when I found that out, I'm gonna be real. Like I was really, I had a lot of emotions going. Like I was angry at her, like I was angry at her, like I was angry at mom. I was confused, and then at the same time, I'm just like, who am I? Like So yeah, that was like a lot, and then even to this day, like I still never reconnected with my mom, and like that's like our stories are kind of a little bit different with that part. And yeah, so even still to this day, like I don't know who my birth parents are, like or what they even look like. And it does bother me. Like sometimes I'll think about it. And yeah, like do you want to take over about your part?
Sure. Yes. So again, like our stories are different. Now she had a better relationship with our adopted mother than I did, but I also have found my birth parents, so I know who they are and have a fairly good relationship with them. So it's really good, and we get better and better and better, and so for me, I just feel like knowing my history about the reasoning why I got put into Chonzaid to begin with, I feel like it wasn't necessary. Like I feel like I actually kind of feel like I was stolen away in a way. I know some people are like, well, there's obviously a reason for it, and yeah, their reasoning, but what their reasoning is may not necessarily be the whole truth, right? But again, I don't remember back that far, so I was there, but I don't remember what happened, right? So I just feel like Chonzaid does help other people, but I think in my situation, they kind of made things worse than they needed to be. Yeah. And like I said, my relationship with our adopted mother, was not the greatest. It was a challenge, to say the least. Yeah. And a lot of problems happened with that situation. So I may get into that more detail about that at a later date, but right now I don't feel comfortable talking about it, because I've been trying really hard to kind of get away from that way of thinking. So I'm more or less, I'm trying to be more like the way I am now. It did shape who I was, though. I feel like if I hadn't had those experiences, my life may be a lot different now than it was then. So I'm thankful that I have life experiences to worry about and to think about, but I still feel like it was unnecessary for me. Like it was unnecessary. Now, we'd love to hear your stories about adoption, and it doesn't have to be good stories or bad stories. It could be both. So I feel like I think it would be good for our viewers to kind of share their stories, and I think that it's good to hear the bad and the good side of adoption, because so many people think that when they think adoption, they think, oh, it's amazing, it's awesome, it's this, it's that, and unfortunately that's not always the case. Like it's not always the case.
For me, like I feel like when I hear adoption, like for me, like before that, like I found out about me, like I knew about you and stuff, being adopted, like I kind of never really like took as seriously, to be honest, and then when I found out that like I'm in that situation, honestly, like it just took me overboard. I felt really lost, like like it really
does
lost.
It does tend to make you feel lost, because when you find out you're adopted, mind you, I've known I was adopted since I was 12 years old, but I kind of already figured there was something different, because I didn't look like our adopted mother, and I definitely didn't look like our adopted father.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then when people would ask about our blended family, the way that our adopted mother would describe it was, she would be that me and so and so were from her first marriage, and then our brother and sister were from her, from her husband's first marriage, and then they would describe you as their child together. So in a way, it kind of worked. It worked for our blended story, but I feel bad because I honestly thought, because I found out at such a young age, so I honestly thought that you would know. So when you told me you didn't know that you were adopted, I felt so bad because I'm just like,
I know your face.
I'm just like, I am so sorry, because I just automatically assumed that you knew.
Yeah,
right?
for sure, because like she told everybody, right? And then even when I confronted her, what made me even more upset with my emotions was she was still trying to be like, no, it's not true, it's not true. And then finally, when I was just like I seen it, like I seen the proof, like I know what's up. That's when she finally was like, okay, it's true. That really hurt me because I was kind of like just sitting there in my feelings, like why I really like so vulgar, like, to you guys, like, yeah, like you guys were adopted, and then for me, it was just like, to me, it felt like all these lies.
Yeah.
All these lies and all these secrets, and I kind of even looked at her different because, as you were saying, like, I was so close to Mom. Like, I was, like, really close to her. And, like, after that, it was just like, bro, I don't trust you. I feel really weird now, So it was hard. And then I kind of beat myself up to this day even still because, like, when I found out, like, I kind of hated on her, like, for, like I said, for lying.
Yeah.
So when she passed away, that's why I held on that so much guilt, because I'm like, maybe if I just, like,
exactly,
like, just listen to her story and understand, and just let it, like, because now I'm just like, wow, I wish we could have, like, actually sat down and not argue about it, because I was, like, yelling. She was telling me not to yell at her, like, and it was just too heated, like,
but see, that's what happens with, I feel like that's what happens with adoption sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You have all kinds of emotions and all kinds of feelings towards it, so it's kind of really hard to kind of break down those feelings. Like, the most common feeling when you find out you're adopted is anger.
Yeah.
Because then you think, well, was I not wanted?
Yeah, that was the number one thing I thought.
And that's what most people that are adopted, that's the one thing they'll say. They feel like they weren't wanted.
And and to say it on that part, like, if anyone's going through that situation, they're adopted and they're feeling like that, don't feel like that. You know what I mean? Because now, as being a mother, and like in our next episodes, we're gonna talk about motherhood. But for me, I felt like everybody has, like, their I guess, like, baggage, their past, their problems. And some people are not made like everyone else that, like, have those skills.
Yes.
To, like, fight and, like, put the past away and let that pain not kind of take over you.
Well, it's going to. It's going to feel.
Like,
it's going to take over at some point.
It is.
But I think the most important thing, if you have found out that you're adopted, I think the most important thing to understand is that unless you know the full story about the reasoning behind it, right? Like, everybody has a different story of why, maybe the biological parents were too young, maybe it was because of something bad, right? Or something bad happened that resulted in having a child.
And can I just say something financially too?
And it's expensive to be a parent.
It really is. And like in Ontario, there is resources that do help you, but there in like some places too, like it's just hard. Like, you know what I mean? Financially, like for me, like, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Financially, like, is the biggest thing because kids need, like, things.
Exactly.
Like, 24/7. And, like, those baby things are not cheap. Like,
no, they're not.
That formula is not cheap. Like, just a little small container is, like, $50-$60.
Yeah.
So, that's another thing you have to understand, too. Like, maybe that person like couldn't financially do
Exactly.
it, and they wanted you to
Have
like
the best life,
have
right?
the best life, have everything, have those resources to have a better future when you grow up as an adult, you know?
Exactly.
So don't ever feel like you weren't wanted, because there's always reasons
Yes.
for the way your life is and where you are right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And feel free, like we said, feel free to reach out to either one of us. Comment, we'll comment back. You know, we're very active that way. And just know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. Know that you're
Yeah.
not alone. You're not alone in this. There are people that have experienced it as well. And, you know, we'll get into a little bit more detail about motherhood in the next